Welcome back to the Jesus versus Jesus tournament. We have 64 Jesuses in a March Madness bracket, and this is now Division 3, the Allen and Ree division. Just to recap real quick, this is the Magus Shin division. It ended up with Kondraty in the final four, and then he will be facing off with Krishna Vinta from the Divine Bell second division, and those videos are available on the channel page. But we are here for Division 3, so let's quickly get into these first two matchups. This will be G.G. Allen versus Marshall Applewhite, and David Koresh versus Thomas Harris Provenzo. I can already tell you I peeked ahead a little bit, and Division 3, it's the worst one yet. And that, well, it's hard to say, yeah, because we did have Jim Jones on Division 2 and a couple bad dudes, but this one, I think we have Marshall White and David Koresh right off the bat here. So, yeah, I don't think I have to explain that. But our first contender here is kind of an interesting story. He's sort of innocent on this list as well. He's actually just an American punk rocker. He was born Jesus Christ, but he never actually made that claim himself. He was given that name, and he's known for having some wild performances, assaulting audience members, and he did have a following. I don't know if I would call it a cult following. It's more like a fan base. So that's G.G. Allen, but he is facing up against Marshall Applewhite, and I'm sure although I suppose it has been 20 years now, so maybe there's some out there that don't know about him. But yeah, if you've watched any cult videos, you'll see this guy on here. So Heaven's Gate, maybe you know that more than a Marshall Applewhite, but yeah, it was a mass suicide in 1997. And they thought they were going to be joining some space aliens on the comet Hale-Bopp. I guess we'll never know. And then our second matchup here, we have David Koresh, and he is the notorious leader of the Branch Davidian religious sect in Waco, Texas. Claimed to be Jesus himself, the final prophet, the Son of God, the Lamb, etc. Now there was quite a standoff. It went on for a couple months and ended in tragedy. The ranch burned to the ground, killing everyone, or nearly everyone inside, including 21 children. So yeah, not a happy story. He is versus, we have a couple of these on here on this division. A convicted murderer, possibly mentally ill, compared his execution with Jesus Christ's crucifixion. And switch back over and fill out the bracket on these first two. It is kind of an interesting story with G.G. Allen. I read a little bit into it while, just to find out why he's on this list. But I think no surprise here, we're going to give it to Marshall Applewhite and David Koresh over the convicted murderer. And so, let's move on to the next two matchups. I don't know if I'm going to do this quite yet. Let's see, Marshall Applewhite and David Koresh. That's going to be a tough one. So, I'm going to avoid that for right now. And yeah, we are going to move on. So we have Maurice Clemens versus Sung Myung Moon. of the Moonies. You may know him better by the cult name. And then the second matchup, Stephen Terry, possibly, versus Jose Luis de Jesus Miranda. Yeah, I think I did that right. So, Maurice Clemens is another murderer, although I'm not sure if he ever got convicted because he died in a gunfight with a Seattle policeman who recognized his stolen car. But before that, he was a felon who had already killed 4 police officers, referred to himself as Jesus, in May 2009. So yeah, not like a super religious, there's no cult involved or anything like that. It's just kind of a lone gunman situation. Versus Sun Myung Moon, and if you know anything about the Moonies, and if you don't, I encourage you to, read into it a little bit more. There's plenty of videos on YouTube as well. But, believed by members of the Unification Church to be the Messiah and the second coming of Christ, died in 2012. And, so they had, here we go. Mass weddings, heavy political involvement, prayed for Nixon during the impeachment cult, and was recognized by Nixon. Cult became known as the Moonies. And their mass weddings, these were like these, I think it's still maybe going on, I don't know, but it grew and it was like thousands of weddings. So just like a huge ceremony. He filled up Madison Square Garden one time. Yeah. Versus, this is the second one. So Stephen Tari. Now, this is a guy, Papua New Guinea, convicted rapist, suspected of cannibalism, sacrificial blood rituals, died by being hacked to death in 2013, known as Black Jesus, was on the run, and, so quite a story there. And he is facing off against, I'm just going to say Miranda instead of just trying to say the whole name every time. So Miranda died in 2013, leader of the Crescendio Ingreso cult in Florida. Okay, claimed to be both the return phase of Jesus Christ and the Antichrist. I think this guy is more of like kind of a prosperity gospel guy. That's kind of my impression. Shortly after his death, his followers granted him the title of whatever that is. Yeah, if you know what that is, like leave it in the comments or something. Attained his new and final name, which means King of Justice and King of Peace. There you go, never mind. Yeah, so he was featured in Bill Maher's documentary Religious. So I think between the two here, I'm going to give that one to Stephen Tari over Miranda, and then I'm going to kind of do the opposite here and go with Moon over Maurice Clemens. Just, I think, in terms of the size and influence of the cult, Maurice Clemens, as far as I know, never really had a following. He had a manhunt, so that's a slightly different situation there. And then Stephen Tari, so that it's a super messed up story. I might even have to give this one to Stephen Tari over the Moonies. Or no, actually, I think just because of the massive, or the size, the following, and the political involvement, I will go with Moon. And I'm going to skip that again and come back to it. And move on to the next two. So we have Afrin Muhammad versus the infamous Charles Manson. And we have Shoko Asahara, possibly, versus Jesus Matayoshi. And this is definitely some interesting ones here. So Afrin Muhammad died in 2016, known as Ayah Pin, founder of the banned Sky Kingdom in Malaysia in 1975, claimed to have direct contact with the heavens and is believed by his followers to have been the incarnation of Jesus, Shiva, Buddha, Muhammad. His movement had a commune which was demolished by the Malaysian government in 2005. So, yeah, so kind of like a communal cult leader here. And Charles Manson, similar kind of communal cult with a very dark twist. Plotted to start a race war, convicted of first-degree murder, conspiracy to convict murder, or commit murder for 7 people. I don't think I need to explain too much about Charles Manson, other than he died in 2017, and this was pre-swastika on the forehead profile picture. So, yeah, moving on. Shoko Asahara died in 2018, and this guy is also infamous, coming out of Japan. Japan's only fully enlightened master and Lamb of God. The Shinrikyo cult or religious group is what it says here. Outlined a doomsday prophecy which included a third world war, nuclear Armageddon, borrowing from Book of Revelation. Humanity would end except for a elite few who joined Alm, which is him. Yeah, he carried out the sarin gas attack, was sentenced to death and executed in 2018. Versus Jesus Matayoshi. Oh yeah, so this is the... After this, all of the Jesuses are still alive. So Matayoshi here is the final Jesus which has left us. Has fulfilled his earthly mission. So, Jesus Matayoshi, originally Mitsu, maybe? Conservative Japanese politician, established World Economic Community Party, based on his conviction that he is God and Christ, renaming himself... Oh my god, sorry, this is jumping around. I don't know why it's happening. I'm not doing it. According to his program, he will do the last judgment as Christ, but within the current political system. How convenient that he assumes control of his country and is the Christ. So his plan moves on. After becoming Prime Minister of Japan, he will become the Secretary General of the United Nations and would reign over the whole world with 2 legitimate authorities, religious and political. The world economic system would have been altered to encourage every nation to be self-sufficient based on agriculture. He condemned permanent residency and the naturalization of foreigners because he viewed the abandonment of one's motherland to be wrong. So he's also a nationalist. Big surprise. All right. So let's go back to our bracket here, and yeah, I think no surprise here. Charles Manson is a favorite, and then in this one I'm gonna have to go with Shoko Asahara. I think they sort of have the similar goals, but Asahara definitely the more extremist leader. And that sets up another difficult matchup between Charles Manson and Shoko Asahara. So I will come back to that. And yeah, this is a tough bracket. But I guess I kind of knew that going in. So let's move on to the two next matchups. We have Tony Quinn versus Jung Myung Suk, possibly, and David Icke versus Inri. Now I think, yeah, we're getting into kind of the prosperity gospel type Jesus here. So Tony Quinn, Irish businessman, followers believed him to be Jesus Christ. He, I think, is most known for seminars. That's what this picture is indicating. Quinn writes his foolies that he and two business colleagues who are caught up in the trap of financing his fantasy lifestyle have together come up with the concept of the answer. There is nothing spiritual about Duco, so I presume Quinn's answer was and still is to increase profits, which involves attending foolies using their money for seminars. Yeah, so I think that's written by a critic, is what it reads to me like. Yeah, in his letter, Quinn says he and Maurice and her new nephew Josh Stewart have come together, have come up with the concept, the answer. Okay, yeah, and then they critique that idea. So, moving on, we have Jung Myung Suk, a South Korean member of the Unification Church in the 70s, but founded his own group, the Providence Church, in 1980. Also considers himself to be the second coming of Christ, but not Jesus himself. Okay, so just like a Christ-like figure. He's come to finish the incomplete message. And he is the Messiah, and it's his responsibility to save all of mankind. The Christian doctrine of resurrection is false, but that people can be saved through him. Interesting. Gotta keep it fresh. Moving on, we have David Icke versus Inri. David Icke, born in 1952, from Great Britain, described himself as the Son of God and a channel for the Christ Spirit. So this guy, he's big in conspiracy theories and sort of, So, yeah, the human race lives in a holographic false reality controlled by shape-shifting 12-foot paleophilic lizards whose headquarters is in our hollowed-out moon. But he's an author, mainly, and I think he has a website. So, David Icke versus Inri, born 1948, presently still Jesus, a Brazilian who claims to be the second Jesus, reincarnated in 1969, considered by Inri Cristo and his disciples as the new Jerusalem of the apocalypse. Yeah, so yeah, this is some of these guys that we're getting into now have been profiled in there's the National Geographic link that I put in the First Division description. I'll probably post it again on this one because a lot of these present Jesuses have been featured not only there, but that story's been done pretty widely. So anyway, Brazilian cult leader, kind of like a communal sort of thing, I believe, but he's also, so he's been featured on radio stations So he's also gotten some attention. Let's just say that. So this first one's kind of difficult, but I'm going to give it to the Mooney guy. Those guys are pretty similar. And then this one here, I'm going to have to give this one to, I think, these guys are also kind of similar, but I'll give it to this guy for having the commune cult following. And then in this match here, yeah, I think whoever goes on is going to end up losing to the winner up here anyway. So I'm going to give this one also. Oh no, we already have Moon over here. So I'm going to give this to Henry just to make that kind of interesting. Neither one of these guys are going to move on. Whoever wins here is going to face off here, which is now where we're at. So I am back at the Marshall Applewhite David Koresh matchup, and wow, let's see, how long has it been? Wow, okay, you know what, I am gonna cut it off here, and I'm gonna save these matchups for a later video. So we're gonna end up splitting up Division 3 into 2 videos, and we will be back with this matchup here, and that will conclude today. So be sure to tune in for that. That will be interesting. Let me see, I stayed the entire time. I meant to zoom in and I didn't do that. Yeah. So this is where we are, and this will wrap up today's video. So we've got a tough couple matchups here. Marshall Applewhite versus David Koresh, and we have Charles Manson versus Shoko Asahara. And before I leave, I just want to say I really appreciate it if you guys have made it this far. Welcome for any new subs out there, and yeah, for lasting this long, you guys are amazing, and I love everything that you're doing. I'm sure you've probably never asked yourself, is it necessary to put all the people in history who have claimed to be Jesus in a March Madness single elimination bracket to determine who, besides Jesus, is the ultimate Jesus? But if that thought had occurred to you, I'm sure you would have immediately thought, no, it's not necessary. But we're going to do it anyway. It may shock you that there are enough Jesuses to fill a bracket of 64, but there are, and that's what we're doing. Although not based on love, or caring for the poor and sick. No, this will be judged on infamy, power, influence, debauchery, and most insane. And just to be clear, I am going to have fun with this, but I don't want you to think I'm making fun of mental illness or making light of the tragedies that some of these people helped cause. I do hope to shed some light on the sheer magnitude of the phenomenon and help put it into perspective. I have a feeling you will find, like I did, it is way more common than you ever thought. If you're enjoying this content, consider subscribing, leave a comment and a like, which I will be sure to love, and let me know how I'm doing, or how you're doing, or your thoughts on something else. Stay tuned for the next division, and keep in mind this is only the Jesus category. There are Buddhas and Jewish messiahs and Islamic prophets and divine rulers, and some in a category all their own. I'll be reviewing the spreadsheet I'm working out of in more detail in later videos as well, so be sure to subscribe for more. Bye now!